Ever wondered how a regular guy in ancient Rome could climb the ranks to become one of the most powerful men in the world? The Roman legion wasn't just a brutal fighting force, it was a complex career ladder. Today, we're going to break down the 14 levels of the Roman legion, from a nameless recruit all the way to the emperor himself. Let's march. Level 1, the miles or legionary. This is your basic recruit, the backbone of the army. After surviving a brutal training regimen called the probatio, you'd swear an oath, the sacramentum, and your 25-year career would begin. Life was tough, filled with endless marches, building forts, and, of course, intense battles. You were a number, a cog in the great Roman war machine. But this was the first step on the path to glory. Level 2, the immunes. After a few years of distinguished service, a legionary could become an immunes. The name literally means exempt from duty. This didn't mean you got to sit around all day. It meant you were exempt from the hard labor that regular soldiers had to do. Why? Because you now had a specialized skill. You could be an architect, a surveyor, a weaponsmith, or even a musician. You were still a soldier, but now you had a trade, a bit more respect, and slightly better pay. Level 3, the sesquiplicarius. Now we're getting into the junior non-commissioned officer ranks. The name means 1.5 pay, and that's exactly what you got. 50% more salary than a basic legionary. You were a leader of a contubernarium, a tent group of 8 men. You were responsible for their discipline, their gear, and their morale. This was your first real taste of command, a chance to show you could lead others under pressure. Level 4, the duplicarius. As the name suggests, double pay. You're now a step above the sesquiplicarius. You might be a standard bearer, like a signifer, carrying the cohort's emblem into battle. This was a position of immense honor and immense danger. Losing the standard was the ultimate disgrace. Or you could be an optio, the second in command of a century, the man who kept the battle lines straight from the rear. You were clearly marked for further promotion. Level 5, the Centurion. This is a massive jump. The Centurion was the heart and soul of the legion. There were about 59 centurions in a legion, each commanding a century of roughly 80 men. They were career soldiers, often grizzled veterans who had seen it all. They were known for their discipline, their bravery, and their use of the vitus, a vine staff used to enforce orders. Becoming a centurion meant you had made it. You had respect, significant pay, and real authority on the battlefield. Level 6, the primi or deans. Not all centurions were created equal. The primi or deans were the centurions of the prestigious first cohort, the legion's elite unit. These were the 5 most senior centurions, just below the top dog. They were experienced commanders, advisors to the senior staff, and men of considerable influence. Reaching this rank meant you were at the peak of the non-commissioned officer path. Level 7, the Primus Pilus, the first file. This was the highest-ranking centurion in the entire legion, the commander of the first century of the first cohort. This was a hugely prestigious and well-paid position, the pinnacle of a common soldier's career. He held the legion's eagle, the Aquila, in his care. After a year of service, a Primus Pilus would often retire with a huge pension and automatically be elevated to the equestrian class, joining the Roman middle to upper class. Level 8. The Praefectus Castrorum, the camp prefect. This position was typically held by a former Primus Pilus. He was a long-serving veteran, the third in command of the entire legion. His job was to run the camp. He managed logistics, supplies, equipment, and training, while the legate and tribune were often young aristocrats. The Praefectus Castrorum was the old soldier who knew how everything actually worked. He was the operational engine of the legion. Level 9. The Tribunus Angusticlavius, the narrow-striped tribune. We now move into the commissioned officer ranks, reserved for men of the equestrian class. There were 5 of these tribunes in a legion. They were typically young men starting their political and military careers. They served as staff officers to the legate, handling administrative tasks and sometimes leading detachments in battle. It was a stepping stone, a way to gain military experience before moving on to other posts in the empire. Level 10. The Tribunus Laticlavius, the broad-striped tribune. This was the legion's second-in-command. Unlike the other tribunes, this man came from the senatorial class, the highest echelon of Roman society. He was usually a young man in his early 20s, destined for a career in the Senate. He was the legate's deputy, learning the ropes of high command. Though he was often inexperienced, his noble birth gave him immense authority. Level 11. The Legatus Legionis, the legionary legate. This is the commander of the entire legion, around 5,000 men. The legate was a senator appointed by the emperor, usually in his early 30s. He held the power of life and death over his men. He was the ultimate authority on the battlefield, making the strategic decisions that would lead to victory or defeat. Commanding a legion was a massive responsibility and a crucial step for any Roman aspiring to the highest offices of the state. Level 12. The dux. A dux or leader was not a permanent rank but a title given to a general, often a governor or a legate who was placed in command of a temporary army, composed of multiple legions and auxiliary units for a specific campaign. Think of it as a task force commander. If a major war broke out on a frontier, the emperor might appoint a dux to handle the crisis. This was a position of immense power and trust. Level 13. The Imperator. Originally, Imperator was a title bestowed by a general's own troops after a major victory. It meant commander and acknowledged his right to a triumph, a grand parade through Rome. Under the Empire, this title became exclusively reserved for the emperor and his family. A victorious general might be hailed as Imperator by his troops, but the honor officially belonged to the emperor, solidifying the idea that all victories were ultimately the emperor's. And that brings us to the final, ultimate level. Level 14. The Emperor, the Caesar, the Augustus. He was the commander-in-chief of all Roman armies. All legions swore a personal oath of loyalty to him. He appointed the legates, decided on grand strategy, and was the final source of all military authority. From a humble Miles digging ditches to the emperor ruling the known world, the Roman military offered a path, however difficult, to power and glory. A journey of 14 steps from the mud of the battlefield to the marble halls of the palace. So there you have it, the complete hierarchy of the Roman war machine. It's a fascinating system of ambition, skill, and class. Which rank do you think was the most important? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this journey through history, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more deep dives into the ancient world. Thanks for watching.